Hi. Oh my gosh, I'm glad that I get a beat. I'm glad I get a beat here before I start live. So, hi, good morning. How is everybody? A little dressed with some of my jewelry on today, my gems. Welcome, welcome, artists. Nice to see you. Good morning. Fabulous. Hey, you know what? I want to start today. Oh my gosh, thank you guys for joining me. This is so exciting. I'm really enjoying covering some of these subjects here that we're doing in the group. So I want to say first off that my focus on this channel is, and I think there's some people on here who already know and have worked with me. Leslie's here. La la, Nan, nice to see you guys. Great. I really, really enjoyed meeting with you guys and seeing you guys here. So I'm going to talk. There's been a lot of new people have been watching and coming into the group. So I want to go over. I'm always excited to make a community for all of us artists here, and how we like to work. So I want to say that on this channel, my focus is to, many of us are jewelers. I'm a jeweler, but my focus is, good morning, is, to really help us to hold the power of who we are as creators, as artists, as jewelers. As I always say, and you guys are going to hear me say this over and over again, artists are the heartbeat of the world. If you look around you, any inspiration will come from creativity. Without creativity, we have, without our creativity, we have nothing. We have a dead. Life is not exciting without creativity. Even people who are in accounting and finance, they use their creativity to find, the how we can spend money and all of this. It's like there is creativity in every single thing that you do. Oh, hi, you guys. So, on this channel, I'm really doing a lot of lives to just talk about different subjects. And of course, this subject again is going to be about developing your body of work, because that's what I'm doing back in my studio. And the body of work, what I want to address today, because there's so many different subjects to developing a body of work. Hi, Juliana. Oh my gosh, I've got my glasses right there, I think. When you get used to looking at things close up, you need your glasses afterwards. So, when you are, when you're actually an artist, you really need to stay inspired. You need to be able to look around in the world and bring the world into you and produce it off onto your table. You need your nerves to be, your nervous system to align. You need to be calm to get at the right information. We know it as flow as artists, right? You guys, like, we know flow comes through our body. And when you're in flow, oh my gosh, you don't eat, you don't have to sleep. That's your passion. When you're in flow, that's your passion. And you know that you're right on track and you are developing your most important work when you're in flow. So it's like, if you guys have watched, if you guys ever were involved like in Artist Way, I consider, this the very tip of the iceberg in the Artist Way. And, learning, just like keeping us straight. Hopefully people tell me that I inspire them when we talk. The second step is, and then I'm going to get into the origin story. I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how to get around on here. I realize it's like I set this all up in my head, and then I want to introduce you guys to that. Welcome to all these new people that joined up in Unfolding. That's been really fun. Unfolding is the next step. So if you guys really do like this outward step here, Unfolding, it's a very inexpensive membership. It's $25 a month. And I like to show the whole, like, real creative side of things. And I see some people who are in my program right now that are in here. So, but I'm really switching things up in Unfolding. So in Unfolding, it's actually is a whole reset. It's a creativity program to get to your passion and to stay into flow. And each month I put together a program of either letting go, of bringing things in, and working on subject matters that are really important to artists, or should be important to you as an artist. Like, anybody in the world, anybody, I remember anybody can create amazing work if you can get there, if you really are brave enough to let go and get into your core of what you love to do in your work, right? And that's the place that feels really good. So these, I show up live. I also show up, and I'm just showing me in my studio, building this line of jewelry, building my next line. And next month, I want to talk to you a little bit about, like, July. I'm talking about unfolding, on how I feel the importance of being powerful in the world. It's like it's combining your heart with your power center. We know as artists, and also your communication of getting yourself out there as artists and as leaders, it's just as important to, like, open your heart and feel love as it is to be able to have this power, take these risks, and put yourself out there in the world, right? It's like that combination of the two of them. If you don't have that combination, you are a leader, you're going to be off balance. It's like, when I had ice resin before, it's like I got to the point where I was really working out of my power center and I forgot about my heart, and then you have to go back in. I made a lot of mistakes. Your heart guides you in the right way as an artist in doing your work, right? So that's kind of cool. So what I'm doing, I'm starting a different program. First of all, in Unfolding, which, if you guys aren't subscribed and want to subscribe, I love you guys that did subscribe. You could subscribe. You have to be on your computer or your PC, and you can join. It's called join. It's not like, it's a couple steps to get in there. So you can join that way. And we'd love to have you in the group. I started this community, and I got to see a couple people on the community. So on Discord, in there is a link to Discord. And I know there's a number of people that signed up. And I just want to say, the next time that I'm going to meet is Thursday from 2 to 4, where we can pop on Discord and we can be with each other as artists as we work in our studio. And the few times I've done that, it's like, oh my gosh, with Leslie, I was able to really enjoy myself and communicate with you. I loved it. We had fun. It's like, the reason why I thought of this Discord, and I'm really looking forward to just all of us getting on there, and not just talking to me, all of us, because I'm thinking that, I grew up with sisters who are all artists. And it's like, with my sisters, when I was doing my figurative work, my talisman work, my work, whenever you're doing fresh, new work, a new body of work, you question yourself. If you're not questioning yourself, you're not really going the right direction. If you don't feel like you're taking a risk, you're not quite going the right direction. You know what I mean? It's like, when you show up with your work, when you're really building fresh work from your heart and your soul, you're going to feel like you're standing on the ledge, shaking in your boots. And that's how you should feel with your real passionate work. So, that's something to really think about. Is the work you're doing right now, does that, as you're putting it out there in the world, do you feel vulnerable? Do you feel like you're shaking in your shoes? Or do you feel like you need to step it up a little bit, And we shouldn't be putting work out there that we don't feel vulnerable about, because this is our language as artists. Our language, I think I used to have a site that was called The Language of Jewelry. It's a language of art. Our language has to be pushed through our work, or your work isn't going to be powerful enough. So how do you get there, right? It's going to be, part of it is the origin story that I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes. But I do want to say, in July, you guys, so this month, if you get into Unfolding, it's all about, like, working through and just shedding. Next month, I want to really, in Unfolding for July, I'm going to get into a whole program of getting to your origin story. And that's through breath work. So for me, I've studied energy work all over the world. That has been really, really fun and really empowering and really exciting. And, I'm on this pathway now, and I know many people that I know are on this pathway. The world has changed. We live in a different world. So the only way that, we've got to get rid of this old stuff, the old way of life, the old way we did business, the old way we got to our artwork. I see so many people who are kind of fumbling around right now, like, I don't know how, just really fumbling a lot. We're fumbling because we're restarting. we're restarting in a new, fresh way. So that's pretty cool. And I know I see a lot of you guys, and we are restarting. So that's kind of cool. It's the safety and the power of our group that we have here that makes it super strong. So this is going to be good. So that's unfolding. There's going to be a lot of, oh my gosh, I'm really tapping into this energy work that is an unfolding, that is about, really shedding, getting to your center, getting rid of some of that anger or creative blocks that are there. And then there's just little light assignments to get in for origin story. And I'm going to do a little one here in a little bit. The third pathway that is like way down the road, in September, is I actually have a whole complete creativity jumpstart program that's called pathfinding. I'm not going to get into it very much now, but so all three of these, I just want you guys to see how all of this works together. And I'm really working hard within these groups to form a whole community for us. I think this is going to be amazing. As artists, yes, there's platforms for learning silversmithing techniques. There's platforms for learning business techniques, hardcore business techniques. This is really all about this beautiful energy of community and love and power and inspiration to keep us an artist through our writing, through our art, through our travel, and through our business. Hello, nice to see you, Ashley. So good, welcome. Oh, and there's the other Julia. So nice to see you guys. Yeah. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring up a little bit. So for me, it's like I'm going to, I'm going to actually bring, unfolding in this program here just to help. So for me, you guys, my background, which a lot of people know me, I actually just switched up my website, but I developed products, I've developed lines of jewelry. I'm just moving right now into more commercial work again, which is interesting, but I'm going back into my origin story again, which is why I want to talk a little bit about it today. So, for me, it's like in unfolding on this channel here, I want to talk about how do we get to the heart of what we do, and in unfolding, we have a community where we don't have to be lonely. We could show up. We could show our work to each other. So I'm there 2 to 4 tomorrow if anyone wants to come into Discord. If you're on unfolding, the link is in there. If you can't get in, pop over and Rachel will help you get into it. Okay. So when you have love from your heart and passion from your solar plexus working together, and I use Kundalini yoga, and I use a lot of different energy forces to really be able to bring this energy together. And when you walk away, you can get easier to your origin story. You could show up at your desk and flow right into it. So I brought with me, I want to start off talking about, I brought this really fun little piece, and maybe some people, you're going to remember it, but in talking about a body of work and your origin story, the first thing I want to say is, I had a question that was asked, that somebody asked me, and they're like, oh my gosh, Susan, I'm working towards chakra aligning, energy work. I am not a purist. We are all human beings. Like, look, you're going to see me. My friends see me. I swear, I yell. I'm doing this program in July, and maybe this afternoon, I'm meeting with people this afternoon at 3 p.m. in Unfolding. And, it's like, we have to acknowledge, I've been really in this space where it's like acknowledging your anger, acknowledging your confusion, acknowledging, I used to think in the world that you had to walk around and have the solutions as an artist, right? Or at least pretend you did, so now it's like when I feel down, when you're undoing, when you're really looking at your origin story, and when you're really looking at your life, you're going to really feel, you're going to really feel into it. Being an artist, we're sensitive beings. We're not all just about walking around in the world and producing all the time. We're 80% of energy behind the scenes as artists, as visionaries, So what does that mean? That means that we're taking in our environment. If we're taking in our environment, we're bringing things in. So I was raised on the south side of Chicago, which I think if anyone's seen the movie Shameless, you get a good idea of what the south side of Chicago is about. Yeah. Isn't that funny? It's like when I saw Shameless, I was like, oh my God, this is so my people. Now, I lived in a more affluent neighborhood, and my father was a finance guy, but nonetheless, no matter where you lived in my time period, it's like that's, so that's who you are as a person. And there's no denying it. I moved to California. There's actually my studio, there's big, loud, noisy trucks that come through. This used to be an auto. They used to create the Astor car here. So lots going on. So, when you're looking at your origin story, I was just talking, it's like it brings you to a sensitive place. You don't have to have that power and strength. This vulnerability that we put into our work and put into ourselves will bring us to our power and love. But we have to allow this quiet time. And I know there's a couple of people on here that I talk to that are really getting into their, really getting into your origin story. It's like, I know in Puerto Rico, we talked about like when you're around your family, you see your origin story, you see your patterns. When you're taking a break from your work and just checking out and being like, I'm done, I'm going to take a break for a little bit. That's when you get into your origin story. I actually just came from a period of time where I'm reorganizing so many things in my life. And there's stress and trouble with my dad, like there always has been, but I'm realizing a lot of what I'm going through right now was a lot of what he went through when he was my age. Isn't that interesting? It's like you pop these memories in, and it's negative. For me, it's negative. I've been off balance, like, I've got to get this out so I can get to my bench and do my work, Now, my work I have been doing has been working out. Luckily for us as artists, we can work out all this ugliness onto our bench. Not that your work is ugly, but like you could work your stuff out. It's like when, and in an instance of that, an example of that, if you go to, I love going to the colleges, to like the big art shows at the end of the year, and they're happening right now. So you can look around, and if you want to, go in and see painting and jewelry and, bodies of work. When artists are graduating, they have a big show, they have their work up for sale. Why do I love this? For one, you get some amazing freaking work for a cheap price. Whew, I've gotten great work. For two, you can actually see these artists' origin stories right there. They're just like showing their origin stories. It's like you can see, if you look closely at work, you can see. I just want to mention, I could see this one person's body dysmorphia, this beautiful young girl who had body dysmorphia. Well, she's healing herself by working it out through her painting. But you can see in her work what she's working on, right? Right? Like that's what our work is. When you're doing your real work, you work your truth out. Last week, when I did a live, I showed you my book, Making Connections, and I showed you guys the marionette that was called The Key to Freedom is in his head. And that work was all about being tied up and feeling manipulated like a marionette, right? Even though I didn't know it at the time. When you walk museums, and here's a great assignment for the summer. When you walk museums, here is an assignment for you. It's like I would go with my kids. I was the art teacher. We'd go to these, we'd go to museums wherever the kids would travel to, but mostly we had the Toledo Art Museum that we would go to. And I'd always have a group of parents with me. And I just grew up in Chicago, so I'd be at the Art Institute all the time, field museums, and it's like, if you're trained as an artist, you just naturally kind of know how to look at artwork, right? Because you've been through the gamut. So, one of the things that I like to say, so I'm going to actually I realized that most people don't know how to look at work in an art museum because it's not stuffy. It's not highbrow. It's real. It's natural. It's raw. So it's like whatever experiences you're feeling, you just be real. and let yourself be. You know what you like there. You know what you don't like. So here's the thing that I love to do when I go into a museum to look at work, and it's like our work now. And think about this for your own work, for your own origin story. This all has to do with your origin story, and really getting in touch with your origin story is you're going to, like, after you've stepped away, take a look at some work from 10 years ago, from 5 years ago, from 2 years ago. Take a look at some work you were doing and what you were exploring. For me, it's like I realized that and I know I jump all over, I'll get back to the museum in a second. I realized, like, after I sold ice resin, I was on my own. I came back in, and the work that I was building 6 years ago, 5 years ago, was very, very raw and fragile and like wild and rough edges, rough and raw. And I loved exploring deeply into all of this raw. Would people look at it and say it's beautiful? I don't know. We would. The people who were exploring right alongside me would, right? So wherever you're at, it's like if you're exploring, I had that, many of us were working together, and some people still here today, like really working out that rawness of being an artist. And I have a piece here in a minute that I want to show you, but I do want to say, if you don't have a beautiful story, no worries. When we get into our origin story, we're not looking for the most beautiful story to show the world. We're looking for our real story. And the more we can get to our real story and understand our own work, the more your own people and community can find you. So I'm in here developing this platform and my platform Unfolding and my work so I can meet with you guys. Because you guys are my people that I'm attracting, right? Through my stories and my words that I'm saying. And that's how you find your community. That's how you find your, it's like if you're doing a body of work, people that connect with your work because they're on the same wavelength as you. They're going the same direction. So that's kind of cool. So if you don't have a beautiful story, tell it. Tell it. My statement that I always, like when I wrote my book, Making Connections, I'm from the south side of Chicago. My origin story, it was in all over Making Connections, which I have right here. But you guys, I think if you guys have seen Making Connections, I'll just show it again. Hang on a second. I have to pull it out from under my computer. I'm a little bit lower now, but this is Making Connections. I don't have it for sale. This was self-published. It took me 2 years to write. I put my heart and my soul into this book. And, I just loved it. But I did a whole series of these marionettes that, were like manipulation and control. I feel like I had to shed a lot of in my life. But this book you can find on Amazon if anyone is interested. Someone actually just asked me, they were like, hey, Susan, can you do an ebook on it? And I was like, oh my gosh, let me check into that. That'd be cool. Because I don't know if I want to publish it again. And I'd have to go in and completely redo it. That was in 2007. But the cool thing is that of this hard copy, I sold 20,000 copies. Do you know why? Because I dug into my origin story so much that I needed therapy while I was writing it, right? Sometimes you dig so deeply into your own work. Is anyone having that experience where you're digging so deeply into your own work, into your own origin story, that you find you need a little bit of therapy or writing, or this type of unfolding work? And that actually is what my program Unfolding is all about. And I'm making it stronger and more powerful because I finally had the time to dig deep and do this type of work. When you dig into your origin story, it's like getting it out there through this breath work and energy work that I show, and writing, and like an artist way style. It really helps you to get your origin story, So Making Connections, and here's the piece on the cover. This was a big body of work that I did that was based on talisman. And this was really fun. I loved it. You could see some of the pieces look like weapons, you know? My whole statement at the time was that jewelry doesn't have to be beautiful. Jewelry should be inspiring, just like artwork. It should be inspiring, it should be intriguing, it should bring up an emotion in you. So when I would do this type of work, and I used to do long, 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 long big necklaces, I was doing the Smithsonian retail show. I was doing the uh, American Craft Council. And, you know, people, it's like they would want longer and bigger and all of this. But, you know, when you're putting your real work into this, they're actually talisman. It actually is. When you're at your bench, it's Reiki. It's like Reiki when you're working your bench. You're healing your origin story. You're getting clear to your origin story. You're working through your work to get to your authentic work. So definitely in putting together a body of work is definitely about your origin story. So here is, I want to show you this piece. Now, this piece is based on my origin story, but I don't exactly, this was actually based on my origin story in combination, like a history, looking way, way back in time, with a trip. A lot of you guys, I've seen you out at the Hacienda de Mosaico, right? Some people I haven't, and other people who watch this later. This was a beautiful art center in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And I actually have upcoming a film. I had to document it because I loved it so much. I actually taught there for 20 years. It became part of my origin story. It became part of my history. So I used to teach for Day of the Dead, and we would go out on Day of the Dead, and that is part of my origin story, Day of the Dead. And we would, although we were all, you know, the Americans there, and we would dress up as the Kachina dolls, which is, I'll have to put that in my next film that I show, the Kachina dolls. The Kachina dolls are actually, for the Mexican people, it's the way the Mexican people back in time, 1700s, 1800s, they were making fun of the Europeans that came over to Mexico. Isn't that crazy? Did you guys know that? There's Lala. I'm a sculptor, and for the jewelry is just wearable sculpture. I love that, Lala. Your jewelry is just wearable sculpture. Absolutely. And that's when you're getting to your origin story. And I know you were telling, you know, just from you and I talking, I know you've had a lot of, you know, you're going deep into your, you know, you can't help it because the changes in your family, you go into your origin stories. I was just talking to my friend Karen, and she they asked her to, like, she's the caretaker of her aunt. She's going over there, getting her lunch every day and talking to her, visiting with her. Well, her parents aren't alive, but she's able to find out all of this rich information and habits and all of these different types of her goings on from her family, you know. So it doesn't, if your parents are gone and you're like, oh no, I want to get these stories documented, they're in you. They're in you. So you might as well get at them. Please excuse the truck going through the hallways. So for Day of the Dead, we were down there, and there was this is back when I had Ice Resin 2, and this is like more of a mixed media project. But we dressed up as a Kachina dolls because we knew we were the Europeans, you know, that this is how they saw us, as skinny. They would see the French people and the English people coming over super skinny. They saw them as anorexic with little purses and high heels and, you know, little dogs that they carried and big bouffant hairdos and like dresses that were crazy, not natural for Mexico. So it just was their way where they were making fun of these people, which I thought was so interesting. So we went into the cemeteries, and if you guys have been in a Day of the Dead cemetery, it really is such a beautiful way to celebrate your ancestors. And I wish, do they have that in Puerto Rico, Lala? I mean, I don't remember it. There's a beautiful cemetery there from the 1400s, but um, you know, you go in there and you bring like you think about it, like when someone you really love, my sister died, you know, when she died, it's like, oh my gosh, I would so love once a year to go in and bring her favorite food and bring her favorite music and bring her flowers and have a whole community of people around there just celebrating what you have going on, you know, and leaving the food and everybody telling stories about this person and just having fun once a year. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, what a great way to remember your people. So, you know, for me, we were down there and it's like we did have someone that we went to visit who we knew very well on Day of the Dead, you know. And so this, when we came back, this was my story. This was our story. This was my story. This is jewelry. Yes, it could be wearable. Yes, it could. But this was my story that came from that experience. So I always talk to people like, how do we take an experience, bring it back to the studio, and push it out into artwork? And a lot of that is from movement of thinking, letting go, bringing it in, breathing, and energy work, you know, and that's what I like to show in unfolding. So I know I'm talking a lot about unfolding, but I just love, for me, and maybe, you know, you guys will have to tell me, you know, on how this all will work together that way. But it's like we walked up to these little dusty places as we were getting to our destination in the cemetery. And we, walked through, and there was like little, just wooden crosses that were broken and torn and just woven, you know, strapped together and tied in a knot, and it barely had the person's name on it. And some of them were a couple hundred years old, and you know, some of them had a number on there and their name, but like a number, you know, with just different writing. You can see this is when I put different writing in there for markers and riveting onto the grave sites and the person's name. And and it's like, really, it's like the thing that I love so much about that area is, I mean, it's Catholic. It's like when I was talking to, it's definitely Catholic, you know, most areas. Like, we don't know, you know, unfortunately, through many, many hard stories, it's Catholic behind it, but that's going to be another story in another time. But you just see a lot of the crosses. Crosses, before they were Christian crosses, were definitely a pagan type. You know, they were for directions, for north, south, east, and west. I really kind of love the symbolism of the cross. To me, when I am doing my yoga and my energy work, it's breathing through and it's my arms outstretched, a way to bring breath work into the body. Dia de la Sarita, oh, Lala. Oh, yeah, okay. So is that it that's it when you're in Puerto Rico? I love that. You love it. Good. I know I did this so long ago. I'm really intrigued. Okay, let me get my glasses because I need to be able to read better. Where the heck did I put? Here they are. Okay. You can't wear glasses with your, you just can't wear glasses with your jewelry though, right? Normally, I don't have to unless I'm doing my work. So I'm really intrigued to see how the Kundalini melds with the making. Oh my gosh, Justina. Yes, absolutely. So it is. It's really, it's perfect. You know, and also the energy work, you guys, for me, it's like I've studied talisman my whole life. And that's going to be another story of talisman. This work is talisman, but your work is talisman. I've studied talisman when I was in my 20s, and I accidentally came upon talisman. I didn't mean to study talisman. I just love these objects. And people talked about these objects like they love when you have objects that you hold and you love and you bring into your heart, you're putting energy into these objects. Everything has energy. Our metal that we work with, our sheet metal that we're cutting out, our sheet metal are moving molecules that definitely hold an energy. Isn't that crazy? So it's like when you like objects or a shape, they're definitely, and I'm just finishing up another, that's what I'm talking about for the next, couple weeks. It's like you're going to, however long. I'm talking a lot about the objects that we love and the pieces. So it's like, if you're really drawn to a shape, you use that shape, For me, it's like the shape I have been drawn to for so long. Let me see if it's on here. Is the, oh my gosh, I'm putting a lot of my, do I have it? Here's one. Okay. The shape that I have been drawn to for so long is this. It's a little dirty. I have to clean it up. This is sterling silver. It's a prayer box. This shape, it's to me, is abundance. I call this abundance. It's a compass, north, south, east, and west. It's just a beautiful compass. And I ended up finding that on my Polish family crest. So look around when you are, look around on yours. Talk to your people. Get your origin story. And a lot of people, Yoruba, she said, our ancient religions are predominantly Yoruba. Wow, I love that, Lala. That's amazing. Came to Puerto Rico. That is amazing. I love the Yoruba people. I actually have some of the fabrics from the Yoruba. Yeah, I saw a piece. How funny is this? I saw a piece years ago because I used to work in in a museum that had a huge collection of African art. And then I've done things like repairing ethnographic repair, and that's where making connections came from. I did ethnographic repair for such a long time, and then I worked in an art museum that had a beautiful collection, and I actually saw a piece that the Yoruba people made, making fun of the Europeans again. It's like how we make fun of each other. How, think about it, like before the internet, people would see someone that looked so different. And so it was a piece, it was just, they did a costume of it. And the Yoruba people, a lot of the Yoruba people, your eyes are really big. You have this quality of really big eyes. But so they drew, which is a beautiful, considered very beautiful in that culture years ago. I don't know if now, but they did this like white person. It was a woman, and her eyes were all wrinkly and like slitted shut, which mine are kind of wrinkly too. So I was like, this is going to look like me when I'm older, big and fat and could hardly move. And they had a purse and tennis shoes, and they were dressed all dorky, you know what I mean? But here, because a lot of times back then, you didn't travel until you're older if you're an American, So anyway, it was a pretty good depiction. But I love that for you, Lala. So yeah, so this was really, had to bring an experience in. Like I did this. I didn't know if I was going to, for me, this sits on my wall. This is one of my pieces that I kept with me through time because it really meant a lot to me. This is about my person who we visited at Day of the Dead. So this is a box that has words inside there. It's a prayer box. So it's like prayers that I say to my person at Day of the Dead. This is a bone. It didn't come from that cemetery at all, but I put the bone in there, bleached bone, because it just was what I saw laying around. You see crazy things, rocks and stones and dirt and crosses that are like just bound up, and peacefulness and birds coming in. And, it's just, you go in there and you sit and you breathe in and you take that experience in. Then you do movement. Movement helps which is where the Kundalini comes in, or breath work. Movement helps get a lot of the energy out into the surface so we can work with it as artists. And then of course the cross, which I wanted to put in rhinestones. It's like I should have put in more flowers, but this just, you see rhinestones and plastic flowers on the way out. So it's so colorful and beautiful, and mariachi bands, and exciting. But, and there's a stick in there, and there's rhinestones, and, just the shape of the cross. And I do mine in silver because that's what I do mine in. So this is my interpretation of Day of the Dead, visiting who I wanted to. That's a talisman to me. That's going to bring an experience back to me and make me feel good. So right? And I know you do. Oh my gosh, look, let me see if there's any comments in here. So nice hearing from you guys. Yeah, okay. So you're loving my workshop videos. Thank you, Justina. Hi. So yes, I've got some good ones in there. I'm working on one for a little bit today too. My workshop videos, aren't they fun? I just kind of want to show, like, look, you guys, I feel like, if you saw I put my resume together, and I was like, I've always been motivated. I've always been able to find my way as an artist. I've done a lot of really profound work working with museums. I've done commercial work. I've done, explored so many fields. So I just like to show how what a great big world we have here and how many places you could look at and go to, on our pathway as creators. It's oh look, I had one of them on that I could have just showed you guys right here, my talisman. I'm just starting to do little gentle things too lately that are so easy and wearable in the summer. These I rub prayers into. Think of your own. Think about how you can get your origin story into your work, or it just naturally comes. So in museums, when you walk up to a painting that you're drawn to, it's so interesting. Or it's like if there's an artist that is really big and maybe you're like, I don't know, his work isn't for me, or maybe you love his work, doesn't matter. But you can find out so much about why a person is a classic, why art is a classic. Yeah. Oh, good, good, good. Yes. Good. I'm glad. Uh-huh. So yeah, and let me know if you guys have any subjects that you want me to talk about or address here, because I really have done so many things. And I think most of all, I've taught for so long. I really love doing, I really love just, I'm at a different point in my life where I'm mentoring more, so I really love doing things like this. I'm just looking for my community of people that I love, and, just helping to show the way how to stay artists. There's it's hard as an artist. We're sensitive beings. We are opening ourselves and exposing ourselves to experiences so we can go back in our studio and produce. But in the meantime, writers, artists, jewelers, if you're working on your raw, real work, you're also finding other emotions in there, like maybe loneliness, maybe a little bit of depression, maybe a little bit of this, because you're opening yourself. You have to open yourself to be creative. Why do you think people shut themselves off? They get like, that's enough. I'm done. I'm not going to keep lit. I need to be out there. I don't want to be a sorry sap. I don't want to be, you know what I mean? So you have to be the bravest person in the world to be an artist, like to be a successful artist. Look at these successful artists that have opened up their hearts and still gotten into their power and have put work out there and have been able to stand their ground strongly. Look, I put my work out there. I was from the south side of Chicago. I thought I was really strong. You can get knocked over very easily, unless you have your foundation set up for you as you're putting your work out into the world. As you're if you're creating a business or work or, showing up, it's like there's people that drop out right away because they don't have the stamina to start and push their way through. And I'm excited to see, because from intentional metalsmithing, I've seen so many people who worked with me from the beginning who were really able to push through. And I still see their work now, like some of the people here. So that's been really, really fun. So, and I know there's a couple people on here who are just taking a break, like from getting in and building. When you take a break and just get away and just go out and enjoy your life, that's when your stuff can come in, is when you could relax and let things come in. So if that makes sense. So museums, when you're walking through there, one thing you want to do, and this is, I'm bringing up museums because you want to also think about this for yourself and how you're describing yourself. You put your time period that you were born, like you walk up, you see the artist, you see the time period that they were born, you see the country that they were born in. If you know history at all, or you could look up, now we have our phones with us, you can look up what was going on in this country politically, socially, religiously at this particular time period. And, you can get some real history of what this artist is about and what his work is about. And then you look at the title. The title should say everything. The origin story, like they give an artist statement you could look up, but the origin story, the title in a museum has to say everything in it. So titling a body of work has to be powerful, and it's so interesting because we all just these different perspectives. I was talking to Leslie at Friday, I think last week. And I didn't even think about this, Leslie. I have to tell you how this, like, my mind was like, what? Just different cultures. Like, we feel so English, or Spanish, or so like here in America. And, I'll finish saying that and then I'll read yours. And Leslie was saying, look, you don't understand in England because so many heads have rolled from religion that you don't talk about your religion. You don't walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm Catholic. You know what I mean? I didn't even think about that. Think about that. There's been bloody wars over. I finished a bachelor's degree last summer in jewelry design. Yay, metalsmithing. And finding you has really helped as I was in a funk. Right on. Just started to come out to the other side. Thank you so much, Justina. I'm so glad to hear that. And very proud of you. Yay. To know the technical part of silversmithing is friggin' amazing. There's 3 parts to being an artist, and I always talk about these 3 parts. 1, to know your skill, to master your skills, to have the education of your actual craft or skill or art form, whether it's painting, jewelry, stones, whatever it is, you master that, like being an artist. The next one is knowing your business, because if you are an artist, unless you're working for a company, you have your own business. You have to consider yourself working for yourself, right? So that's 2. So working for yourself, you have to know your business, how you're putting it out there in the world. But that actually is 3. Number 2 is to know all of this on the inner that you don't necessarily learn in art school. You learn it, but bringing it all together, like, getting this breath work in to get at your real self, to get at your real core, feeling this braveness to push your real work out there in the world. Like all of this, there's 80% invisible that it takes to be an artist. And that's all what we do behind the scenes. The breath work, the movement, it's like, I remember, it's like the breath work, the movement, the getting in. It's like, I have to do, what I'm going to start doing in unfolding too. It's like in unfolding, I show a lot more movement. It's like, first of all, you just go through some simple breath work, like say for 12 minutes. And I'm trying to do these little 12-minute pieces too. So 12 minutes, you just get in, do this breath work to clear your body out. We always start with clearing, letting go, because maybe you woke up this morning, your toast burnt and your kid was late for school, and you got a ticket this morning on the way to work, and you finally got here and you're hectic, you're late, you're this, you're that. You get up to your bench. You can't have that. That's not going to help you get anywhere with your work. So it's like just getting in, taking this 9 to 12 minutes and clearing and get rid of this superficial energy that you don't need. Then you can go into, even if you're not showing up at your bench, then you can go into this breath work that helps dig and get to your origin story, or what your work really is about. Or you just did a trip to India and now you want your work to reflect that. You know what I mean? Bring in your experiences from there. And that's the way bringing in your body of work works, in all these different ways. 80% invisible, 20% in front of your bench doing the work. As Leslie says, as previous generations had to hide it and modern generations were not proud of it, but I can be for them love. Oh, I love that. Right. Because that's really interesting. And it's like, oh my gosh, as much reading as we have done on England, that was profound when you said, so that was Leslie who was saying that to me, that you don't talk about religion there. You go to Italy and they're like, everybody's Catholic. There's nobody that's not Catholic here. When I did Milan, I used to do Milan Jewelry Week. I was thinking about it again, but then I was like, no, it's not on my page. Just what I need. Yay, perfect. Exactly. So this is, exactly what it's about. So, in September, I have this program that I'm rolling out that I'm so excited about. It's called Pathfinding, and I got such wonderful reviews. And I'll just mention a little bit. I'm not really talking that much of it, but it's kind of like, it's a whole course, a creativity course for 8 weeks to spend profound time doing this digging, doing this 80% invisible. I did it, and I have a group of people that did it. And it's like, it helped me, and I got really good reviews on it. If anyone wants to read it or check it out, I have a good description on my site. And how does time go by so quickly. Wait, let me see. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. How does time go by so quickly, right? For me, because I'm talking. Do you guys, anybody want to add anything in? I'm so happy you guys showed up. So really, this is all about being an artist. Let me see if I was able to wrap this up. So an origin story. How do you get to your origin story? So, um, it really is what I want to say about this. It really is taking, this is something that I did inside Unfolding. This is something that I do in my course, but it's like, it's really closing your eyes, getting into your breath work. And I want you to think of, I want everyone to do that. Let's just close our eyes gently and just breathe all the way in and exhale out. It's this breath work. Again, in, exhale out. One more time, breathe it all the way into the top of your head. Suspend that breath. Exhale out. And I want, now as you just breathe gently, I just want you to think about in your past, a beautiful little time in your life. Something that just brought love and joy to your heart, whether it was a little tiny moment back in your past when you were a little kid and young, free, living life, loving life. And just to feel that experience and breathe that in. And I do this process with a lot more movement and breath work and story work, and there's a lot more that I put behind it. But take this little fraction of a second or 5 minutes or something that you just found within yourself that you could remember that brought so much happiness and joy to yourself. It's that little bitty moment. And whether it was good or bad, I had some people who, whether it's a good moment or a hard moment or a tough moment or a pivotal moment, or it's a moment where, it's like where you realize a person you love is walking out the door, moment. It's like, take that one little story and write that down in your journal. And then you just write it down right now. And when you have time later, when you get a little bit of movement in there, when you get a little bit going, this is what you expand on. Because the reason it came up for you right now is that it has something to do with your life right now. All these little stories will be different from a year from now, 6 months from now. All these little reflections and stories. Oh, good, and this was just like the whole quickie version. But all these little fraction of a story. I can promise you're embedding this little story into your work when you're in your studio. And that's what your origin story is really all about, are these little tiny dots of stories, and that you can expand on, do beautiful writing about. It's not about, when you get up like, oh my God, what can I write about my social media? How can I do my marketing? What's my stuff about? When you're outward like that, you can't get to any of it. It takes all this inward work. And everybody, this is, and believe me, it's like, should I do this? Because this is the quickest little dot of a way that I work with people on getting to your origin story. So think about that. Think about today, writing down just this little fraction of a thought that you had, and tuck it away for later if you don't have time. But if you do have time, expand on that story. And when you stand, and then do, it's this little bit of movement. You get in front of your bench and you're building out that story. The same is when I built out the marionette that I showed you guys. The same as when I felt bound. That was my story. The same as when I kind of built weapons for Talisman for South Side of Chicago. So that's your origin story, a good part of it. And there's more. You'll never run out of stories. You'll never run out of something to say. Just like me. I'll be on next Wednesday, talking about stories. But truthfully, you guys, this afternoon at 3:00, if you guys are in Unfolding, then I meet with everyone at 3:00. You're welcome to come in. I'm going to expand on this idea of origin story through breath work and more talking on a deeper level, getting to our stories, and talk about any of this. And we're on, it's like it's Zoom, so I can see you guys, people share, we can talk to each other tomorrow. And if you guys want to join my membership, it's only $24.99 a month on YouTube, and you just get onto your PC or your computer and you could hop onto Unfolding. And once you're in Unfolding tomorrow, I have Discord. It's a community platform, Discord. It looks like Zoom. And tomorrow I'm meeting from 2 to 4, but you can get on there middle of the night. You can get on there anytime. And we're I'm just building this platform. There's not a lot of people on there now, but I do want to say from 2 to 4 tomorrow I'll be on there. So some people are getting used to it. There's a lot of people in Unfolding. There's a good amount of people, so I'd love to see us join here. It's where we can connect, share ideas, get rid of our loneliness when we're in our studios by ourselves, help each other with ideas, and move forward in that way, if that makes sense. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Leslie. I'm so happy to see you here. Share the word. If you guys know of anyone who would enjoy this program and this live, please share the word. And I do have beautiful, beautiful gems on my website still, you guys. I curate them into beautiful little collections if anyone's looking for some gems. All right, you guys, I'm going to take off. Love you so much. Mwah! And I'll see you again next Wednesday, or pop on and watch my stories in here. Okay.